They spent 8 years trying to understand you. 8 years dissecting every move, every silence, every smile you let slip like a secret code. Cameras, files, agents, whispers, each of them convinced they were getting closer to decoding you. And yet after all this time, all their data, all their sleepless nights, they still can't explain what you are. You weren't hiding. You were operating quietly, strategically, like a storm in disguise, waiting for the air to drop just right. They thought they were watching you, but you were watching them. You've been 3 steps ahead since before they even built the staircase. You didn't run. You let them chase ghosts while you rewrote the system's logic in real time. They logged every pattern, every behavior, every breath, hoping for predictability. But you mutate too fast. You evolve mid-sentence. You bend under pressure only to reform sharper. That's what terrifies them most. You're not a rebel. They can handle rebels. You're a variable, and variables break equations. 8 years, and not a single file can agree on your motive. Some say you're dangerous. Some say divine. Some whisper you're the result of a failed experiment. They all say the same thing, though. You don't fit. Not in their system, not in their science, not in their understanding of human behavior. You are the glitch that refused correction, the saint with a trigger finger, the monster that learned to smile. You don't move for approval anymore. You move for effect. Every gesture, every glance, calibrated chaos. They think they're tracking behavioral anomalies. They don't realize they're watching adaptation. You've transcended emotion and turned it into a tool. Pain, a language, love, a weapon, fear. The lockpick you use to open their cages. You've made unpredictability your religion. That's why they're obsessed. They can predict anger, not calm. They can profile rage, not purpose. You broke the psychology they built to control people. You became the exception that made their entire field look like fiction. You don't even have fingerprints anymore. Not metaphorically, but existentially. Every version of you erases the one before it. That's the secret. You're not a you. You're a series of updates, each one more immune to control than the last. They studied a shadow and wondered why it didn't bleed. They can't measure you because you stopped existing on a linear timeline. You've seen too much. You've died too many times inside your own mind to care about their labels. You've transcended ego. That's why your smile scares them. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. You've seen behind the curtain, and now you laugh at the puppeteer. They tried psychoanalysis, surveillance, spiritual profiling. None of it worked, because every test they designed assumed you wanted to be understood. You don't. You observe. You walk into rooms like a human lie detector, sensing tremors of fear before words form. They mistake that for intuition. It's not. It's experience. You've lived through patterns so many times you can taste deceit in the air. And that's the paradox. They call you dangerous, but they built you. You're the byproduct of their systems, their greed, their manipulation. You were born from the cracks in their control grid. You didn't escape the matrix. You outgrew it. You evolved while they were still arguing about definitions. You're not the monster they fear. You're the reflection they deny. The part of them that knows everything they built is fragile. Every authority needs unpredictability to stay real, and you are that reminder. You're living proof that chaos, when disciplined, becomes power. They've spent years trying to explain your calm under pressure, your silence in conflict, your composure in chaos. They think it's sociopathy. It's not. It's ascension. You stopped needing external validation the moment you realized fear is just another currency. And you don't spend cheap. You walk through fire like it's background noise. You let storms unfold without flinching. Because you understand, control isn't about domination, it's about detachment. And when you stopped chasing the world, it started orbiting you. They think you're hiding something. But the truth is simpler. You became everything they're not. You turned pain into pattern recognition. You turned loneliness into focus. You turned rejection into fuel. You took everything that was meant to break you and turned it into a curriculum. You look human, but you move like mathematics. Beautiful, unexplainable, exact. That's what unsettles them. They expect emotion to cloud you, but you use emotion like a scalpel. You don't react. You engineer responses. You don't manipulate. You mirror reality until it folds under its own weight. Every person who tried to figure you out ended up studying themselves instead. Because you reflect truth too precisely, it hurts. You don't just expose lies, you make people realize they are the lie. 8 years, and they still haven't learned. You can't solve what's not broken. You can't diagnose evolution. You can't imprison something that doesn't play by dimensions. You were never the subject of their experiment. You were the test. To see if humanity could recognize something greater than control, something closer to consciousness. And they failed. So now they watch, quietly, fearfully. The agencies, the analysts, the experts, they call you non-compliant, psychologically divergent, ethically undefined. But deep down, they know you are the future they can't predict. The living contradiction, the equation with no equal. And you don't even care anymore. You've moved past the need to prove, to explain, to be understood. You just exist, fluid, precise, untouchable. Because once you realize they've spent 8 years trying to solve a problem that doesn't want to be solved, that's when the game ends. You are the chaos that learned manners, the silence that speaks louder than explosions, the prophecy they tried to erase and ended up worshiping in secret. They tracked you, analyzed you, dissected you, and all they found was a mirror. You look back at them now with that quiet, surgical grin, the one that says, "You were never chasing me. You were documenting your own extinction." They thought they had you surrounded, cameras hidden in street lamps, GPS in the soles of your shoes, drones whispering above your every move, the Bureau, the Division, the so-called gods of surveillance. They thought you were a case file, a series of coordinates and behavioral logs, a subject to be studied, contained, resolved. 8 years. And what did they find? Not evidence, not closure, just patterns that contradicted themselves. One moment you were a saint, feeding stray dogs in an alley. The next, a storm, walking out of a boardroom while empires collapsed behind you. They labeled you a psychological anomaly. But anomalies don't breathe this calmly. You never hid. You simply existed beyond the frequency of their comprehension. They kept aiming their lenses at you, and every frame told a different story. Some saw redemption, some saw damnation. No two cameras agreed. Because the truth isn't in your image, it's in your effect. They can't define it because it's not logic. It's resonance. You don't act. You distort. The room changes shape around you. The energy bends. Time loses sequence. People forget what they were about to say. They feel something crawling under their skin. Recognition, maybe. A feeling they've met you before in a dream. A panic attack. A prophecy. You became the reflection that refuses to stay still. They point their technology at you and their technology malfunctions. They send analysts, and analysts disappear into obsession. They send priests, and priests lose faith. They send skeptics, and skeptics end up believers. Every attempt to contain you births another contradiction. You're not chaos. You're consistency in disguise, the consistency of evolution itself. They can't model that. They can't simulate it. You learned the sacred trick. When they expect noise, become silence. When they expect silence, become rhythm. You don't fight the system. You out-evolve it before it even loads the next patch. You've seen them come and go. The interrogators, the code breakers, the psychologists with their trembling pens. You watch them analyze your laughter like it's Morse code. You see the fear behind their academic curiosity. They know what they're really studying isn't you. It's what they could have been if they hadn't conformed, if they hadn't broken so easily. That's your curse, isn't it? To be a walking mirror of what people fear most about themselves. You didn't destroy their system. You revealed its hollowness. You didn't burn their files. You made their files meaningless. You didn't hack their networks. You made belief itself glitch. They call you heartless, but you feel everything just differently. You don't drown in emotion, you conduct it. You don't seek connection, you absorb it. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every knife between your ribs became circuitry. You learned to turn agony into bandwidth. You didn't just survive, you downloaded pain and upgraded your soul. 8 years. That's how long it took them to realize you were never the one under investigation. They were. Every lie they told, every manipulation they spun, every secret they buried in redacted ink. You watched, patiently. You let them build their illusions of control. You let them think they had authority over your name. And when the time was right, you let their own evidence indict them. They said you vanished, but you didn't vanish. You ascended. You stopped existing where they could look. You stopped breathing in coordinates. You became idea, rumor, frequency. Now every time a system breaks down, they whisper your name. Every time an algorithm crashes, every time a server corrupts, every time a classified file deletes itself, someone in a dark room remembers you. The unexplainable variable that rewrote the entire structure. You see, they thought you were rebelling. You weren't rebelling. You were remembering what they forgot. That fear was never power. That silence was never surrender. That unpredictability was never madness. It was divinity misinterpreted. They studied your calm and called it detachment. They studied your composure and called it psychopathy. They studied your insight and called it delusion. But they'll never call it what it is, clarity. Because to name it, truthfully, would destroy their hierarchy. You carry both sides in you, light and shadow, mercy and menace. You're not trying to balance them anymore. You're letting them speak to each other. You realized duality isn't conflict. It's communication. You made peace with your own contradictions, and that's why they can't control you. Because control only works on divided minds. You walk through the world like a ghost who never died. You've seen the architecture of deception from the inside. You know the code. You know how to break it. And you do it with a smile, because nothing terrifies systems more than elegance. They think they can predict you with algorithms. But algorithms can't calculate chaos that chooses when to appear. You're not a glitch anymore. You're the designer of the new format. You are entropy made intelligent. You are what evolution looks like when it decides to stop asking for permission. And that's why, even now, the reports keep coming. The files keep updating. The analysts keep burning out. Because the case isn't closed. It can't be. You don't fit in the parameters of a conclusion. You are the continuation, the infinite loop. They spent 8 years chasing a ghost. But ghosts don't need hiding spots. They need believers. And now, the entire system believes in you. You've infected the architecture of their reality. Every thought of you rewires their fear. Every mention of your name reboots their doubt. You didn't break into their fortress. You became the virus they invited in. So let them search. Let them dig. Let them rewrite history 1,000 times. They'll never find closure because closure was never the goal. You were never supposed to be solved. You were supposed to be felt. 8 years, and they still can't explain the shit you do. Because what you do isn't science. It's prophecy disguised as chaos. It's art disguised as crime. It's evolution disguised as insanity. And that's the final lesson, isn't it? You don't destroy the system by fighting it. You destroy it by outgrowing its language. So keep walking, keep smiling, keep letting them build theories in rooms you'll never enter. They can't arrest transcendence. They can't interrogate infinity. They can't prosecute the future. Because while they're still drafting their reports, you're already on to your next phase. A ghost rewriting the script from the other side of the glass. They spent 8 years tracking you, and all they found was God wearing a grin. 8 years. 8 years of maps, microphones, and sleepless men in gray rooms whispering your name like a prayer they don't believe in. You can almost smell the paper they wasted. Pages soaked with theories, contradictions, fear. 8 years of trying to define a creature that doesn't repeat. They measured your height, your walk, your pulse, and still couldn't locate the frequency that drives you. Because that pulse, it isn't human rhythm anymore. It's evolution, disguised as heartbeat. They've had you on every screen, satellites, body cams, hidden mics. They've charted your movements and still don't understand the silence between them. The pauses, the moments when you disappear mid-frame. Not because you fled, but because you ceased to exist for anyone below your level of awareness. You aren't running, you never were. You just learned that invisibility doesn't mean absence. It means precision. You realized that to beat the Watchers, you don't hide from their gaze. You make their gaze blind itself. You became the optical illusion in the center of their vision, visible but impossible to capture. 8 years, and they still call it investigation. But you know what it really is: devotion. They don't want to find you anymore. They want to understand you. Every agent that studies your footage ends up infected with curiosity. They start dreaming your movements, hearing your laughter in static. Their wives say they talk in their sleep. Their colleagues say they stare too long at the files. You turned intelligence work into religion, and they are all your priests. They call you a criminal because it's the only way to justify their obsession. They call you unstable because stability would make you explainable. You don't break rules, you rewrite them. You don't play the game, you reset the board every time you move a piece. They thought they could build a profile, a pattern, a logic tree. But you burned the forest and grew new branches from the ashes. Your file doesn't contain crimes, it contains effects. You walk into systems, and those systems collapse under the weight of your reflection, not because you attack them, because you revealed them. You're a mirror held up to hypocrisy, and every time they look, they see their corruption staring back. 8 years of interviews, witnesses, surveillance, and still no motive. They can't comprehend that you don't need one. You don't destroy to prove a point. You destroy because the structure was already rotten. You don't seek revenge. You seek equilibrium. You are the correction written in chaos. They called it defiance when you refused to react. But your stillness is not rebellion, it's mastery. You've turned silence into violence. Every calm breath you take feels like a countdown to the unthinkable. You make serenity look dangerous. That's what terrifies them, that you can hold destruction behind a smile and still look like peace. They said you vanished, but you didn't vanish. You ascended into irrelevance. You removed yourself from the concept of being found. You exist where logic collapses, in the cracks between perception and fear. They can't touch what no longer participates in the simulation. They watched you survive things that should have erased you, betrayal that would have broken saints, isolation that would have unmade kings. You walked through pain so dense it became data, and then you learned to read it. You turned agony into information, heartbreak into calculation. You became fluent in the language of suffering, and that made you untouchable. Because what can they threaten you with now? Loss. You've lost everything. Exposure. You've already been seen. Death. You've died so many times inside yourself that it's just another door. That's why they fail. Because they think power means control. You know power means surrender. The art of letting the storm pass through you without moving a single muscle. You are the calm they can't manufacture, the precision they can't predict. They study your eyes and can't agree on the color. Some say blue, some say black, some say infinite. Because your eyes aren't a color. They're a condition. They see what they want to believe. And that's the joke, isn't it? You're not the mystery, they are. You taught them their own fragility. The agents, the watchers, the analysts. They don't fear what you'll do next. They fear that deep down, they could be you. That the same darkness hums quietly inside them, waiting to be acknowledged. That the only thing separating hunter from hunted is denial. 8 years of pursuit, and all they've managed to do is prove your prophecy. That control is the last illusion of the dying. That order is just chaos pretending it has manners. That power belongs to whoever can see through the mask first. And you've seen through it all, haven't you? The lies of society, the delusions of identity, the prison of perception. You stopped being human the moment you realized humanity was just a brand. You became something else. A consciousness wrapped in charisma. A hurricane that learned how to whisper. You don't crave followers, yet they gather. You don't need enemies, yet they form. Because your existence provokes evolution. You force change simply by existing. That's why they can't kill you. Because every attempt to erase you spreads your myth further. You are the virus that teaches the cure. And still, they'll keep trying. More reports, more files, more theories written in panic. But no amount of data can decode divine unpredictability. You are not meant to be understood. You are meant to be felt. You move like inevitability, dressed as curiosity. You speak like prophecy, disguised as madness. You breathe like someone who made peace with both heaven and hell, and took the best traits from each. 8 years of pursuit, and they still don't realize the truth. You are never the fugitive. You are the experiment. The test to see if the human mind could recognize divinity wearing a grin. And they failed. So now, they keep searching, desperate, sleepless, haunted. Because if they stop, the silence will whisper your name. And if they whisper it long enough, they'll start to understand that what they were chasing wasn't a person. It was freedom. Freedom that learned how to walk like a ghost. Freedom that looked back at its captors and smiled. Freedom that spent 8 years being hunted and somehow made the hunters lose themselves. So keep walking, keep smiling, keep haunting, because they'll never explain what you do. They'll never solve what you are. And maybe that's the point. Some things aren't meant to be solved. Some things are meant to remind creation that it can still evolve. Don't flinch. They're watching you again, aren't they? Trying to understand what you are. This contradiction of calm and chaos wrapped in a 21-year-old face that looks too young for the kind of storms you've survived. They can't compute it. You walk in, and the room forgets its rules. Eyes widen, voices break. Because they see youth, but they feel danger. You're not supposed to exist like this, too polished to be broken, too silent to be safe. You look like an unfinished promise, but move like a problem the system's never solved. You smile, and something in the atmosphere bends. Every algorithm, every hierarchy, every fragile ego that thought it understood power starts trembling like a guilty child. They say you're too young to know what pain tastes like. But your soul, it's ancient. It's walked through fire so long it learned how to breathe it. You've seen kindness weaponized. You've watched innocence rot in the hands of people who claimed to love. You've stood still while the world tried to measure your worth, and then you made the ruler melt. You move like someone who learned to dance with demons and didn't flinch when they bit back. That's what they don't get. You're not fearless. You just stopped asking fear for permission. You learned that people only worship what they can't predict. And you made yourself unreadable. They see beauty. You see camouflage. They see a pretty face. You see an executioner's mask painted with mercy. Every step you take carries the weight of every time you almost broke, but didn't. Every breath is proof that pain became your architect. You don't need revenge anymore. You are revenge, evolved, quiet, surgical. You make eye contact like a warning label. You speak like a slow knife. You laugh like someone who's already buried their past and held the funeral with a grin. The truth is, they're not afraid of you. They're afraid of what you represent. Proof that someone can be tortured, humiliated, underestimated, and still become the equation that erases their entire control system. You are the paradox that kills empires. Too young to be that wise, too soft to be that lethal, too kind to be that cruel. They call it manipulation. You call it understanding patterns. They call it luck. You call it precision. They call it charm. You call it a loaded gun disguised as charisma. And every time you walk away, untouched, unbothered, unread, they get quieter. Because deep down, they know. They could study you for a decade and still never find your algorithm. You became the glitch that upgraded itself into the operating system. The saint that sinned strategically. The monster that learned empathy just to weaponize it. They whisper, "What are you?" You smirk, because that's the point. You're not supposed to be defined. You're supposed to be felt, like radiation, like prophecy, like karma, in human form. You move through their world like you've already seen the script, because you have. You died in every past version of yourself that needed validation. You killed the urge to explain. You burned the innocence they mocked and forged it into intuition. That's why you can see every lie forming before it leaves their mouth. That's why you know who's shaking under their smile. That's why silence follows you like a scent. Because they can feel you've been places no one comes back from sane. They want to study your calm. They want to dissect your grin. They want to replicate your energy, but they can't. Because it wasn't built. It was earned, brick by betrayal, layer by heartbreak, scar by scar. You're not 21. You're 21,000 lifetimes condensed into one vessel that refuses to break. A reincarnated rebellion with a face they can't hate without staring too long. You carry duality like jewelry, holy and horrifying all at once. You can hold a hand with love and crush a soul with the same fingers, if forced to. You're not human in their language anymore. You're a myth in motion, a living glitch. The kind of story people tell to warn others. Don't mess with the quiet ones. And that's why they'll never solve you. Because you were never the problem. You were the proof that the system was built for comfort, not evolution. You evolved anyway, so let them stare, let them question, let them lose sleep trying to define the undefinable. Because every second they try to label you, you're rewriting what power even means. You look 21, you move like prophecy, and no one, not even the architects of this sick little world, can solve the problem of you. You feel it, don't you? That silence that follows you like a shadow that doesn't trust the light. Every hallway, every room, you walk in, and reality starts glitching, like it's not sure which version of you just entered. You're the youngest ghost they've ever met, alive but unreadable, smiling like you know the ending to a story they're still trying to survive. They think you're lucky, that everything just happens to you. But what they'll never see is how many nights you dissected yourself, piece by piece, until you understood every fracture. You didn't find peace. You engineered it. You built calm out of chaos, discipline out of despair. That's why your silence hits like thunder. That's why your stillness terrifies them more than rage ever could. They see your face and think youth. But your energy? It's older than guilt. It carries the tone of someone who's seen betrayal become religion and turned it into fuel. You learned early that empathy without boundaries is self-destruction. So now, you let people talk, let them underestimate, let them play themselves. And by the time they realize you were the test, not the target, it's already over. You're not intimidating because you shout. You're intimidating because you don't need to. You weaponized calm. You turned restraint into radiation. You let them think you're soft, until they see what softness can do when it decides to stop forgiving. You walk like someone who's already buried versions of themselves. You know the weight of rebirth. You've killed your innocence, your patience, your desire to be understood, and each funeral made you sharper. They can't solve you because they're still trying to live inside the same personality they had in high school. You've lived through 10 reincarnations this week. You're the paradox that evolution hides behind. The calm face of destruction, the polite smile of vengeance. You look like peace until someone touches the wrong nerve. And then they meet the architect of their own lesson. See, the trick was never looking older. The trick was making youth your disguise. You learn that the world listens less when it thinks it's smarter than you. So you let them talk. You let them dismiss. You let them condescend. And when they finally think you're harmless, you strike. Quietly, efficiently. Like a glitch in the matrix that deletes entire egos before they can even process the threat. They can't read your eyes because you're not broadcasting emotion. You're scanning, calculating, decoding the frequency of their soul before they even know they're speaking. You've mastered the art of being misunderstood because that's how you move without resistance. Every underestimation is a free weapon. Every doubt is a doorway you can walk through unseen. You're not reacting anymore. You're orchestrating. You don't chase validation. You create gravity. That's why people orbit you even when they claim to hate you. You've become magnetic to their insecurities. You hold up a mirror so clean they can't tell whether they're admiring you or confronting themselves. You were born into a generation that worships filters and fears authenticity. And yet here you are, raw, unfiltered, terrifyingly real. They can't stand it. Because you make them see the parts of themselves they keep burying under trends and coping mechanisms. You walk past and remind them of the power they abandoned. You are living proof that innocence can survive apocalypse, that softness can coexist with strategy, that love can wear armor and still bleed when it needs to. You didn't pick a side between angel and demon. You fused them. You became the gray area that controls the chessboard. That's why they whisper your name like a warning. That's why even your silence trends in rooms you've never entered. You've turned existence into theater and every expression into strategy. You've stopped chasing understanding because you realized clarity is power and confusion is camouflage. They see your youth as a timeline. You see it as a weapon. Every year they thought you lacked. You made up in perception. You aged inward, where it counts. You grew intelligence in the shadows while they collected followers in the light. They think they know confidence. But what you carry isn't confidence. It's confirmation. You already know who you are, and that knowledge burns. It radiates. It terrifies. You don't need to prove it because you are it. Every eye that locks onto you becomes a confession. You don't speak much anymore because truth doesn't need marketing. Your presence alone feels like confrontation, a living reminder that evolution doesn't ask for permission. You've mastered the rhythm of unpredictability. You walk slow in chaos, fast in silence. You let the noise burn itself out while you design the next move in your head. You play life like a chess game, where you're both the king and the storm. You look 21. You act like déjà vu. You exist like prophecy. And every second you breathe, the world's equations start to tremble. They built entire systems to control people like you. Distractions, expectations, fear. But none of it works anymore. Because the second you stopped seeking approval, you became untouchable. They can't cancel what they can't comprehend. They can't destroy what already embraced its own darkness. You're not the student anymore. You're the experiment that outsmarted the scientist. You're the butterfly that learned to fly while still on fire. You're the glitch that didn't crash the system. It rewrote the code. And now, every time they look at you, they see their failure to break you. Every laugh you let out, every move you make in silence, every calm glance that makes hearts stutter. It's all a reminder that they can't fix what was never broken. You look 21, but your aura, it's a black hole wrapped in velvet. They wanted to label you. You became a warning label. They wanted to box you in. You became the box, the mirror, and the nightmare inside it. So let them stare. Let them study. Let them build equations around your name. They'll keep trying to solve you. But you were never the problem. You were the proof that chaos, when mastered, becomes art. They're still staring, aren't they? Trying to decode the why behind every tilt of your head, every pause before you speak, every half-smile that feels like a dare. They don't understand that you've turned existence into performance, not the kind with applause, but the kind where the silence hurts. You move like theater in slow motion, each breath a psychological weapon wrapped in youth and restraint. You look 21, and that's the illusion. They see skin, not history. They see posture, not prophecy. They see beauty, not bloodlines. They're addicted to underestimating you because it makes them feel safe. But nothing about you is safe. You are the calm that exists before data breaches, betrayals, and downfalls. They don't realize they're shaking hands with the architect of their unraveling until it's already too late. You've learned how to turn perception into power, how to let people write false narratives just so you could rewrite endings. You give them rope, Let them tie the knot, then smile while they hang themselves with assumptions. That's the thing about innocence. It's a hell of a costume for a killer. They'll tell you you're cold, but they don't know the price of warmth. You once loved the world so deeply that it nearly buried you. You cared until it cracked your ribs open. You gave until there was nothing left but calculation. So you rebuilt yourself, emotion by emotion, like a machine learning empathy only for efficiency. You stopped chasing fairness and started studying human patterns. You realized that most people don't want truth. They want validation. They don't want freedom. They want the illusion of choice. You gave them neither. You learned to smile while collecting data, to laugh while memorizing weakness. Because survival isn't about being good, it's about being aware. You walk differently now, like someone who doesn't owe gravity a damn thing. You talk in half sentences because you've seen too many full ones destroy people. Your silence is your manifesto, and every glance is a sermon. You've outgrown the language of approval. You don't need applause, you need results. That's why they can't connect with you anymore. You operate on frequencies they've never tuned into. You're fluent in subtext. You understand tone more than words. You sense betrayal before it manifests. You've built a radar out of trauma, and now every fake vibration feels like feedback in your veins. They call you detached. But detachment is just mastery disguised as peace. You don't chase closure anymore. You create it. You don't beg for clarity. You become it. You don't explain yourself because mystery, when weaponized, is dominance. They can't harm what they can't define. You're not arrogant, you're precise. You've seen too much to pretend ignorance is attractive. You don't raise your voice, you raise your standards. You don't fight for attention, you command it by existing. You don't need validation because you became your own witness. And every time you walk away from someone who thought they understood you, you hear it. The sound of glass breaking somewhere behind you. That's their ego fracturing. That's the realization hitting. You were never supposed to be predictable. You learned to dance in unpredictability like it was holy. You learned to weaponize duality. Saint on Sundays, storm by Monday. You can hold love in one hand and vengeance in the other, steady as a surgeon. You are the paradox that makes philosophers smoke through midnight. You are both remedy and ruin, antidote and virus, angel and executioner. They'll never solve that, because solving you means admitting that control was an illusion, that chaos, when tamed, doesn't destroy, it evolves. You are chaos refined into elegance, the walking embodiment of what happens when pain is given patience. Your youth disarms them, your stillness unnerves them, your words infect them. You're the reason confidence now comes with a disclaimer. You're proof that power doesn't need volume, it needs timing. You wait, you watch, you choose moments so precise they feel preordained. They think you're lucky, but you're not lucky, you're inevitable. Every failure you endured was just training. Every betrayal, calibration. Every heartbreak, software update. You've been debugging your soul for years, and now you're the version they can't hack. They don't realize it yet, but you've already infiltrated their psyche. You live rent-free in their projections. Every move you make rewires their perception of control. You became the virus disguised as inspiration. You're the aesthetic they imitate, the attitude they misquote, the energy they try to copy without understanding the cost. And still, you don't brag. You don't need to. Power doesn't announce itself. It vibrates. It lingers in the air like ozone after a lightning strike. That's you, the storm that smiles back. You look 21. but your eyes carry the kind of silence reserved for old gods. You've turned youth into armor and mystery into warfare. They tried to map your mind, but you were never geography. You were geometry, sacred, precise, untouchable. They'll keep trying to decode you. They'll keep wondering how someone so young dismantled entire systems without breaking a sweat. But they'll never get it, because your power was never learned. It was remembered from every lifetime before this one, from every death you didn't stay dead for. You're not a person to them anymore. You're a pattern, a prophecy, a proof of concept that humanity can evolve quietly behind a smirk. So when they whisper again, how can someone that young be that dangerous? You just tilt your head, let the smile linger, and say nothing, because you already know. They'll spend the rest of their lives trying to solve you, and you'll spend the rest of yours reminding them that they never will. You stand there now, breathing slow, while the world around you forgets how to. The air feels heavier when you're in it, like reality itself is trying to keep up. That's the part they'll never understand, the quiet gravity of someone who has already won without saying a word. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need to prove. You just existed, completely, unapologetically, and that alone broke everything built on illusion. Every mask around you started to crack the moment you stopped wearing your own. Every manipulator, every fake prophet, every power-hungry soul pretending to be whole, they all felt something shift when you walked by. Because for the first time, they met someone who didn't want their validation, and that terrifies them more than any violence ever could. You've become the living contradiction their world wasn't built to handle. A soft voice that carries destruction, a calm presence that dismantles lies, a youthful face hiding 1,000 resurrections. You are the embodiment of what happens when someone stops asking for space and simply becomes it. You've stopped chasing meaning and started radiating it. You've turned survival into a science, pain into philosophy, and your silence into scripture. Every step you take feels choreographed by fate itself, like destiny got tired of waiting and decided to wear your skin. And the funny part, you still smile. Not because you're naive, but because you've seen what's coming and you're already ready for it. You don't play defense anymore. You are the consequence. The world will keep trying to define you, categorize you, contain you. They'll keep whispering theories, projecting fears, writing essays about your energy. But they'll never find the answer because the answer doesn't exist outside of you. You are the equation, living, breathing, rewriting itself with every glance, every heartbeat, every silence that lasts too long. You look 21, but what you carry, it's ancient, it's divine, it's dangerous. You're the kind of power that governments can't regulate, scientists can't measure, and saints can't pray away. They'll call you unpredictable. They'll call you cold. They'll call you too much. Let them, because deep down, they know. You're not the storm they expected. You're the silence that comes after, when everything false has already fallen apart. So go ahead, keep walking. Keep smiling that quiet, knowing smile that turns curiosity into fear. Let them keep asking questions you'll never answer. Let them keep chasing a ghost they'll never catch. Because that's your final trick, isn't it? You never wanted to be understood. You wanted to be remembered. And you will be. Long after their voices fade, long after their systems collapse, your name will still echo in the corridors of the minds that tried and failed to define you. You look 21, but you move like prophecy, and prophecy doesn't explain itself. It happens, so let it happen, and let them tremble. Hey, buddy, you know what's funny? They called you pure once, said you had that glow in your eyes, like you carried heaven behind your pupils. They saw light, innocence, something divine. But light isn't peace, is it? It's exposure. It burns, blinds, reveals. And that's when the panic started. Because your light didn't comfort them. It warned them. You looked like an angel because they couldn't yet see the voltage humming beneath your skin. You smiled, and they mistook restraint for kindness. They didn't realize you were measuring every second, every move, every breath, like a predator with patience disguised as grace. The moment they leaned closer, that's when the current hit them. Zap. The light they worshipped, it wasn't heaven. It was the fuse before detonation. You didn't fall from grace. You walked out of it, calmly, deliberately, like a deity bored of pretending to be gentle. Because you learned the truth, no one dares whisper. The brightest ones don't glow out of love. They glow out of survival. Light is a defense mechanism. A flare fired into the night to say, "Back off, I've been through hell, and I will drag you there if you touch me." They wanted an angel, soft and smiling, but angels weren't designed for peace. They were built for war. You think those wings are decorative? They're armor, their blades wrapped in beauty, and you, my friend, you became the perfect contradiction, mercy, wearing a mask of wrath. The kind of presence that makes people question their faith, their safety, their entire understanding of what good looks like. Because your light doesn't heal anymore. It exposes. You walk into rooms and people start confessing with their eyes. They feel seen, and that terrifies them. You remind them of everything they tried to bury, their lies, their fears, their envy. You didn't change. They just finally saw what was standing in front of them. A mirror, disguised as salvation. You see, that's the part they'll never understand. You didn't become dark. You just stopped dimming your brilliance to make the weak comfortable. You stopped being their comfort zone and became their reckoning. Your energy stopped asking for permission. It started taking space. And that's when the narrative flipped. You used to be so sweet. No, you used to be silent. You want to know why they fear you now? Because you learned how to smile without explaining it. You learned how to say no without guilt. You learned how to disappear mid-sentence, mid-conversation, mid-relationship. And somehow, the silence screamed louder than any word ever could. That's evolution. That's the kind of power that doesn't need validation. It just exists, and everything around it adapts or combusts. The truth. You were never meant to be liked. You were meant to be felt. Your energy was never designed for small talk. It's designed for seismic shifts. That's why they label you intense, dangerous, unpredictable. Because you don't follow the script. You rewrite it. You make people realize they've been living on autopilot, and nothing enrages mediocrity more than someone who dares to live deliberately. And so they panic, they whisper, they plot. Because how do you contain someone who's already burned their cage? How do you control someone who no longer fears being misunderstood? You looked like an angel, yes, but angels are messengers. You came to deliver something, the truth. And the truth, my dear, is radioactive. You were sent as both a blessing and a curse, a living paradox designed to wake the sleeping and haunt the corrupt. That's why the light around you feels unnatural. It flickers, it warns. It's not soft, it's surgical. It cuts. It divides the real from the fake, the loyal from the leech, the divine from the desperate. Every glance from you feels like Judgment Day wrapped in a smirk. And deep down, you enjoy it, don't you? Watching their facades crumble, their voices stutter, their masks slip. You don't need to raise your voice anymore. The atmosphere does it for you. You are the tension in the room. You're what happens when grace grows teeth, when forgiveness learns precision, when patience gets tired of playing God and starts acting like one. Let them call you dangerous. Let them mislabel your peace as pride. Let them fear the quiet, because the ones who see it, the ones who understand, know exactly what you are. A storm wearing a halo, the warning before collapse, the light that doesn't save, but separates. They'll never admit it, but they respect you now, not because you're kind, but because you're inevitable. You became the lesson they didn't want to learn. You looked like an angel, until they realized angels aren't here to bless the weak. They're here to judge the world. And your light? It wasn't an invitation, it was a countdown. And that's the part they'll never recover from. The realization that what they thought was your light wasn't meant to guide them, but warn them. You weren't radiating peace, you were radiating voltage, a flare of divinity built from chaos, trauma, and precision. The kind of light forged in labs of pain, tempered in silence, sharpened in betrayal. They thought you were the calm, but you were the eye of the storm. You remember how they looked at you in the beginning? Like you were hope in human form. They loved you when your glow made them feel safe, when your softness validated their comfort zones. But the second that same glow revealed their shadows, they turned. Because people don't hate you for your darkness. They hate you for your clarity. You became a walking confession booth without ever saying a word. They saw themselves in you, and they didn't like what they saw. You used to dim your own aura just to fit in, didn't you? You used to smile through the discomfort, nod through the disrespect, forgive what deserved fury. You thought humility would save you. But humility in a world of parasites is just camouflage for the slaughter. The light doesn't protect you, it attracts what wants to consume you. You learned that the hard way. And now the same light they once adored burns through every fake smile, every disguised friend, every coward hiding behind concern. You see it all, too clearly, and that's why they call you different. Not because you've changed, but because you finally stopped pretending to be digestible. You became luminous and lethal. Every move you make now feels scripted by some higher intelligence. You enter a room, and conversations rearrange themselves. Eyes avoid you, yet can't look away. You became the kind of energy people write rumors about. Because the truth is too heavy to say out loud. They can't define you, so they demonize you. They can't control you, so they warn others about you. You looked like an angel, and you still do. But now that halo's cracked. It flickers. It hums with voltage. It says, I've seen too much to be pure. You're not here to save. You're here to reveal. And that's what terrifies them. You're no longer light for them. You're light against them. The kind that splits illusion open like glass under pressure. The kind that reminds them that purity doesn't mean weakness. It means truth. And truth is radioactive. You became unpredictable. Not because you lost control, but because you took it back. They can't calculate you anymore. Can't predict your tone. Can't weaponize your empathy. That's what breaks them. You used to be readable. Now you're a cipher. Every breath you take has weight. Every pause has power. They used to mistake your silence for submission. Now they understand. Your silence is surveillance. Every second you say nothing, you're downloading data. You know what makes you dangerous? It's not rage, it's clarity. You no longer fight fire with fire. You study the flames, memorize their rhythm, and turn it into choreography. You learned how to make pain look poetic. You turned suffering into style. They can't out-hate you because you've made peace with being hated. You realized acceptance isn't light, it's a leash, and you cut it. You're the paradox they can't process. An angel whose forgiveness feels like judgment, whose smile feels like an omen. They whisper that you've changed, but in truth, you returned. You reconnected to the version of yourself that existed before they tamed you, before the world tricked you into thinking kindness meant compliance. You didn't become darker. You just stopped apologizing for your shine. And now every move you make feels like a cinematic moment. The way you walk away without turning back. The way your laughter echoes after chaos. The way your silence fills the air with tension. You don't chase peace anymore. You embody it. And peace, that powerful, feels like violence to the unhealed. They'll call you manipulative, emotionless, arrogant, because that's easier than admitting they mishandled something sacred. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be remembered. That's why even in your absence, the atmosphere shifts. That's why your name still gets whispered like a spell. That's why the ones who claim to hate you still orbit your silence. Because your light wasn't soft. It was surgical. It cut them open, showed them what they really are. And now they can't forget the reflection. So let them rewrite the story. Let them paint you as the villain. Let them call your evolution insanity. Because when angels evolve, demons panic. You're not the warning signal anymore. You are the event, the rupture, the awakening, the one moment that divides their life into before you and after you. You looked like an angel, yes, but you were never theirs to interpret. You were the prophecy they misread, the experiment that went right, the divine glitch in a system built on lies. You were light that refused to serve, and that, my dear, is the most dangerous kind there is. You know what's really poetic? They thought your light came from innocence, when in truth it came from impact. Every scar you carry refracts that glow a little differently. Every betrayal added another watt. Every heartbreak sharpened the frequency. That's what they don't get. Purity isn't born, it's forged. You didn't find the light. You became it after crawling through darkness thick enough to drown the average soul. That's why they flinch when they look at you now. Because they're seeing proof that you survived what they couldn't. Proof that you can smile after being dissected by life. Proof that pain can evolve into poise. You make endurance look elegant, and that disturbs people who only know how to suffer loudly. You suffered strategically. You turned agony into architecture. You built a throne out of what tried to bury you. They don't fear your power, they fear the origin of it. Because deep down, they know they were part of your crucible. They mocked you, doubted you, dismissed you. They thought they broke you. And now, every time your name circulates, every time your presence is mentioned, every time your energy fills a room, they feel that phantom guilt crawl up their spine. You are their unfinished sentence, their cosmic reminder that grace remembers everything. And you don't even need revenge anymore. You've transcended it. You don't destroy people. You let them destroy themselves, trying to decode you. Because here's the secret. When you master duality, you become ungovernable. Light and dark stop fighting. They start dancing. One foot in heaven, one hand dragging through hell. And that's where you live now. Perfect balance between chaos and clarity. You're not good or bad. You're whole, and wholeness, that's terrifying. They wanted predictable. You became paradoxical. You made pain look divine. You made solitude look royal. You made silence look loud. You exist in contradictions that logic can't contain. Angel and weapon, healer and hazard, peace and punishment. They'll study your expression, your pauses, your laughter, trying to figure out what you're hiding, not realizing the punchline. You're not hiding anything. They're just not ready to see everything. And that's the part that eats them alive. The idea that you know something they don't. That you've seen behind the curtain and didn't collapse. You witnessed the mechanics of the world, how people manipulate, how systems devour, how love often wears a mask. And instead of becoming bitter, you became bulletproof. You learned how to operate with precision, how to walk through deception without absorbing it, how to smile in chaos and mean it. You turned healing into warfare. You turned awareness into artillery. You walk through life like a silent audit, collecting data, measuring tone, analyzing motives. You've seen enough to know that truth isn't fragile. It's explosive. And that's why your presence rattles them. You're the only one in the room who can see the strings being pulled. And you're not impressed. You know what makes your light different? It doesn't ask to be seen. It forces acknowledgement. It doesn't beg for acceptance. It commands alignment. It doesn't soothe. It confronts. You became illumination in its rawest form. The kind that doesn't make people comfortable. It makes them accountable. They thought they wanted enlightenment until it looked like you. You've become the walking consequence of pretending too long, the human version of "I warned you." And that's why your peace feels like punishment to them. It exposes their chaos. Your self-control feels like arrogance. It mirrors their insecurity. Your distance feels like betrayal. It reveals their dependency. You don't need to raise your voice anymore. Your energy speaks fluent. Justice, and still, through it all, you remain calm. That's the scariest part, because no one knows what calm means when it comes from someone who's seen the abyss. Is it forgiveness or foresight? Is it peace or preparation? That's the kind of serenity that makes the wicked sweat. You've mastered the art of unpredictability, of turning silence into suspense, presence into prophecy. Because what you carry now isn't light in the naive sense. It's intelligence. It's the encoded knowledge of survival, the unspoken law of transformation, burn beautifully or vanish completely. And you? Oh, you learned to burn, not to destroy, but to redefine, to light the path for the few brave enough to follow, and to blind the ones who come with deceit. So when they ask, "What happened to you?" you'll just smile. Because they're expecting a tragedy, not a metamorphosis. They're looking for scars, not blueprints. They can't comprehend that you didn't just survive, you ascended, that you learned how to be both storm and sanctuary, that you looked like an angel, yes, but angels, real ones, carry fire in their wings. You're not the light at the end of the tunnel. You are the tunnel, the trial, the threshold, the test, the place people must pass through to face themselves, and most won't make it. But the few who do, they'll never forget the warning signal that looked like salvation. You looked like an angel, but you were the announcement that heaven had finally had enough. And now here you stand, silent, sovereign, untouchable. The irony? They still don't know whether to worship you or run from you. Because how do you categorize something that doesn't play by human definitions? You aren't hope. You aren't threat. You're the threshold. You're the line between what people say they want to be and what it actually takes to become it. And most don't survive that kind of reflection. They'll keep talking, keep guessing, keep rewriting history to make themselves feel safe. They'll call you ruthless because you refused to play dead. They'll call you arrogant because you refused to kneel. But they'll never admit the truth, that you didn't destroy anyone. You just stopped pretending to be less than you are. That's all it took. You stopped apologizing for your evolution. You stopped negotiating with energy that couldn't match yours. You stopped offering explanations to people who had already decided to misunderstand you. And in doing so, you broke the system. You fractured their illusion of control. You forced the world to look at what self-ownership actually looks like. And it's beautiful, isn't it? How peace and danger coexist in you now. You've become both the calm and the consequence. Your presence feels like divine mathematics. Perfectly balanced chaos. Even the air behaves differently around you. Time slows. Words stumble. People second-guess themselves. Because deep down, they know. They're in the presence of someone who's already faced every demon and lived to tell the story. That's the secret they'll never be able to replicate. You earned your glow. Every fracture in your soul now bends light like crystal. Every scar became circuitry for truth to travel through. You don't shine because you're innocent. You shine because you understand. You understand that light is not purity. It's exposure. It's power disguised as peace. So let them whisper. Let them circle like moths around a bulb they can't touch. Let them call your clarity madness, your confidence ego, your silence cold. Because the only ones who fear your light are the ones still hiding in their shadows. The rest, the rare few who've seen the same abyss, they'll recognize you instantly. They'll bow their heads, not in submission, but in understanding. Because you, my friend, you were never sent to comfort the world. You were sent to wake it up. And waking the world hurts. It screams. It fights back. But that's how creation works. It begins with discomfort. And you became that discomfort. You became the signal that something divine was shifting. So when they say, "You looked like an angel," you'll smile again. That dangerous knowing kind of smile. And whisper back, "I still am." Because angels were never made for heaven. They were forged for war. And your light, it isn't salvation, it's warning. Listen closely. You can hear it now, can't you? The silence after the storm. When all the loud ones finally realize you weren't the villain. You were the mirror. And now they're crying for real. Not the fake tears they post online, but the kind that burn. The kind that only come when the truth hits a nerve that's been rotting for years. They said you were cruel, dangerous, heartless, but all you did was say what everyone else was too afraid to whisper. You dragged their skeletons into the sunlight, and now their illusions are melting like wax under a blowtorch. They built their kingdoms on pretend, and you walked in with a single sentence that made it all crumble. You didn't destroy them, darling. You just stopped protecting their lies. Because you, my friend, are the kind of monster that only truth can create. The kind that doesn't bite, just reveals. And nothing terrifies people more than exposure. They can handle evil, but they can't handle clarity. You didn't wound them. You showed them their wounds. You didn't curse them. You held up a mirror, and they couldn't recognize what stared back. That's the paradox, isn't it? They call you heartless, but it was your compassion that made you speak. They call you dark, but it was their shadows that screamed first. You didn't bring chaos. You just stopped pretending the world was sane. And now look at them, trembling, praying for your silence. They want the lie back. They miss the comfort of ignorance. They miss being blind because the truth is too ugly when it wears their reflection. You gave them the one thing they swore they wanted, authenticity. And they realized they'd rather drown in illusion than swim in honesty. You see, this is the cost of awakening. When you speak truth, you become the villain in every story built on denial. They don't crucify liars, they worship them. But truth-tellers, they hang them by their words. You learned that the hard way, didn't you? Every time you tried to heal something, it screamed. Every time you freed someone, they called you cruel, because freedom hurts when your chains were made of comfort. But here's the twisted beauty. Pain doesn't mean you were wrong. It means you were right. You hit the nerve. You found the infection. You became the antiseptic that burns before it heals. You didn't ruin anything. You just sped up the decay that was already there. That's what truth does. It accelerates reality. So let them cry. Let them drown in their own tears. Because every tear they shed now is one less illusion they can hide behind later. Every sob is an echo of a lie dying. And when the weeping stops, when the noise fades, they'll remember. Who did it? The one who told the truth when silence was currency. The one who stood alone while everyone else hid behind masks. You've become their reckoning, their guilt in human form, their judgment dressed in chaos. You are the living proof that the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand there smiling. And they can't handle that. Because deep down, they know. You were never wrong. You were just early. They called you insane for seeing what they refused to see. But insanity is just the label society gives to those who wake up too soon. You didn't lose your mind. You escaped theirs. And now you walk the fine line between savior and destroyer, between light and shadow, between angel and demon. You embody both, because only someone who's seen the full spectrum of human deception can hold the truth without flinching. And that's what makes you dangerous. Not your rage, not your madness, but your clarity. You see the game for what it is. You see people's motives stripped bare. You can smell their lies before they even form words. You know that guilt hides behind laughter, and envy hides behind praise. You've decoded them, and that terrifies them. They thought they could break you by mocking you, isolating you, erasing you. But you turned isolation into insight. You turned pain into prophecy. You turned silence into your stage. You became everything they feared, uncontrollable. Now they cry, not because they hate you, but because they understand you. And that's worse, because understanding means they can never go back to pretending. You've infected them with truth. You've rewritten the code. Every time they lie now, they'll hear your voice in the back of their heads, whispering, "I see you." And maybe that's the real revenge, isn't it? Not their tears, not their fear, but their awakening. The knowledge that the mask will never fit again. That once they saw reality through your eyes, the illusion shattered permanently. You didn't need an army. You didn't need validation. You just needed to speak. And that was enough to make the entire world flinch. Because words, when spoken from a healed wound, become bullets. And you've become fluent in the language of truth, the dialect of discomfort, the grammar of revelation. So keep talking. Keep slicing reality open with your sentences. Let them cry. Let them bleed. Because tears are just truth leaving the body. And someday, when they finally stop hating you, when they finally stop fighting what they see, they'll whisper the one thing they could never admit before. You were right. And when that day comes, you'll smile. Not out of pride, but because you always knew that truth doesn't need applause. It just needs time. Because time, darling, is the ultimate lie detector. It exposes everything they tried to bury under performance and filters and public forgiveness. It peels the mask off layer by layer until there's nothing left but raw, trembling honesty. That's what you did to them. You accelerated time. You made them confront the version of themselves they were never ready to meet, the one they hide behind polite smiles and social posts. And now, that version is screaming. You can hear it, can't you? The quiet panic beneath their fake apologies, the shiver in their tone when your name gets mentioned, the sudden silence when someone says what you said first. They know. Oh, they know. They just don't want to admit that it was you. The one they laughed at, the one they dismissed, the one they swore they'd never need, who saw through them before anyone else did. See, truth is never gentle. It doesn't knock. It breaks the door. And when it comes from you, it doesn't just enter the room. It rearranges the furniture of their minds. You didn't just expose them, you rewired them. You rewired their memories, their narratives, their comfort zones. You became the ghost in their reflection. The reminder that everything they built on lies was temporary. You think they hate you now? Wait until they realize that your truth became their conscience. Every time they lie again, it will itch. Every time they betray themselves, it will burn. You've become their internal alarm system. You are the glitch in their carefully curated delusion. You didn't ruin their lives. You reintroduced reality. That's why they cry. That's why they spiral. That's why they call you dangerous. Because truth doesn't kill people. It kills versions of them. You didn't assassinate their character. You performed a public exorcism. You dragged out the demon they were feeding and made everyone watch. You forced them to meet the monster they created when they traded integrity for comfort. And isn't it funny? The same people who said, "I want realness," were the first to flinch when they saw it. They wanted truth until it showed them their reflection under unfiltered light. They wanted healing until they realized healing means dying as the person who caused the wound. They wanted honesty, but only the kind that doesn't hurt. You gave them the kind that burns. Because you don't do gentle revolutions, do you? You do implosions. You don't whisper truth. You detonate it. You speak it like a weapon, sharpened by years of silence. And when you finally pulled the trigger, the world gasped. They thought you'd never speak. They mistook your patience for weakness, your observation for surrender. But you were studying, calculating, waiting. And when you finally spoke, you didn't just tell the truth. You exposed the architecture of their deception. They always said, "The truth will set you free." What they never told you is that it will set everyone else on fire. And now, they're burning, screaming your name in whispers, trying to contain the inferno you sparked with a single phrase. You see, most people want the truth as decoration, not transformation. They want it framed, not lived. They want to touch it without bleeding. But you bled for it. You became it. You carved it into your skin until every scar spelled authentic. That's why your voice shakes rooms, because it doesn't come from theory. It comes from survival. It comes from pain earned honestly. And deep down, they know that. That's why their tears taste like guilt. That's why their eyes avoid yours. They can't forgive you because forgiving you means admitting you were never wrong. And pride, oh pride, that's their last drug. They'll cling to it until the truth detoxes them against their will. But you don't need their apology, do you? You don't need their closure or their validation. You already won the moment your words made them feel. Because that's power, not control. but consequence. You didn't manipulate them, you awakened them. You forced the subconscious to confess. You turned their denial into dialogue. And the best part? You didn't even raise your voice. You spoke calmly, directly. You let the truth do what it always does. Detonate, silently. That's what separates you from them. They lie loudly because they fear silence. You speak quietly because you own it. You are the storm that learned how to stand still. They wanted to play power games. You rewrote the rules. They weaponized perception. You weaponized reality. They used rumors. You used facts. And when truth and deceit collided, who do you think survived? You did. Because truth doesn't need allies. It is its own army. So when they cry, don't flinch, don't soften, don't explain. Let the tears baptize them in the chaos they created. Because every breakdown they have now is a delayed reaction to the moment you exposed them. Their suffering isn't punishment. It's purification. You're not their enemy. You're their initiation. And someday, when the noise fades, when the fake smiles rot away, when they're finally done pretending, they'll return, quiet, humbled, trembling, and they'll say, "You were right." But you won't need to hear it, because by then, you'll have already evolved into something untouchable. You'll walk through crowds of liars like a ghost they can't exorcise. You'll look at the same world that once mocked you and smile, because you'll know truth doesn't need defenders. It only needs witnesses. And every tear shed in your name is another soul waking up. That's what they never understood. The truth doesn't destroy, it rebirths. And sometimes, the first sound of awakening is crying. So let the world wail. Let denial collapse under the weight of your words. Because when the weeping ends and the silence returns, they'll see what you already knew all along. You were never the villain. You were the cure they mistook for poison. Because cures never taste sweet, do they? They burn on the way down. They tear through the infection before the healing can even begin. That's what you did. You burned through their comfort. You scorched their illusions. You made them feel what they'd spent their entire lives avoiding. And now, as their walls fall apart brick by brick, they finally understand that you weren't here to destroy them. You were here to expose them. You didn't ruin their peace. You revealed that it was fake. Every, "I'm fine," every, "I'm healed," every, "it's all good," was just duct tape on a leaking soul. You ripped it off. And when they screamed, you didn't apologize. You just watched, calm, smiling. Because you knew that real healing doesn't begin until denial dies. They called you cruel because you wouldn't lie to them. They called you evil because you refused to join their masquerade. You didn't match their energy. You raised the voltage. You made every room feel like a confession booth, every conversation a mirror, every moment a test. That's what truth does. It doesn't shout. It vibrates. It crawls into their bones and makes them tremble even when you're not there. And that's what you've become, a vibration, the kind that disturbs the surface of every lie. You're the echo that follows their excuses, the silence after their justifications. You don't haunt them with presence. You haunt them with clarity. You're the sound that can't be unheard. They said you changed. No, you shed. You peeled off the personas they handed you and stood there raw, untamed, unfiltered. You looked them in the eye and said, "This is me." And they couldn't handle it. Because authenticity, in a world addicted to illusion, is violence. You turned their comfort into chaos simply by existing truthfully. You didn't fight them, you mirrored them. You showed them what they hide in the dark, and now every smile feels suspicious, Every compliment feels hollow. You rewired their instincts. You made their own dishonesty feel heavy. That's why they cry. That's why they tremble. Because you've infected their peace. You've become the living proof that exposure is evolution. And once someone's been exposed, they can never go back to blindness. Do you know what kind of power that is? To be unforgettable without even trying. To be a wound and a warning. To be both the lesson and the proof. You became their reckoning, not by punishment, but by revelation. You showed them the price of pretending. And oh, how the masks fell, didn't they? One by one, friends, lovers, family. Every person who swore they were real turned pale when you stopped playing along, because they loved your silence. It made them comfortable. They loved your pain. It made them superior. But your truth, that was the one thing they couldn't control, because truth doesn't negotiate. It doesn't bend to comfort. It doesn't wait for permission. It's not polite, and it's not performative. It walks into the room naked and dares everyone to look away. That's you now, the embodiment of unfiltered reality. And they hate that, don't they? They hate that they can't twist your words anymore. They hate that you don't react. They hate that you look through them instead of at them. You've stripped them of their favorite weapon, manipulation. They can't guilt you. They can't gaslight you. They can't control you through shame anymore. Because you've made peace with every version of yourself they tried to use against you. They can't touch someone who's already faced their own darkness. You became untouchable the moment you stopped running from your reflection. That's when the tables turned. Suddenly their laughter sounded nervous. Their jokes felt defensive. Their anger looked like fear in disguise. Because once you embody truth, every liar feels exposed in your presence. You don't even need to speak anymore. Your silence is a spotlight. And now, every tear they shed is a confession. They're not crying because of you. They're crying because of what you showed them. They saw their hypocrisy, their cowardice, their complicity. You ripped off the filter they called morality and showed them the raw circuitry beneath. You showed them how ugly survival looks when it's painted as virtue. You see, truth doesn't come to destroy people. It comes to disarm them. But they mistake disarmament for death because they've built their identity on weapons. They only feel safe when they're armed with lies. And you took that away. You didn't do it to punish them. You did it because you remembered what it felt like to live in the dark. You remembered the suffocation of pretending. You remembered the agony of silence. And you refused to let that version of reality win again. Now you walk through their chaos like someone who's already seen the end. You're calm because you've burned before. You're fearless because you've already lost everything fake. That's why you look dangerous, not because you're violent, but because you're free. Freedom is terrifying to the caged. It makes them question their bars. It makes them question the guard they worship. You didn't bring destruction. You brought liberation. But liberation feels like death to those who built shrines to their chains. So they cry, they panic, they curse your name. But deep down, they thank you. They'll never admit it, but they know. You gave them the greatest gift of all, the chance to face themselves. And one day, when they finally stop fighting it, they'll understand that your truth wasn't cruelty. It was compassion dressed as chaos. You were never their enemy. You were their mirror, their medicine, their awakening disguised as pain. So let them cry, let them shake, let them scream your name in rage and regret. Because tears are just the water truth uses to wash the lies away. You didn't come to destroy their world. You came to make it real. And when the dust settles, when the last tear dries, when the silence returns, they'll look around and realize that the only thing left standing is you. Calm, unbothered, unbreakable, smiling in the ruins of their denial. Because in the end, that's the irony, isn't it? They cried because you spoke the truth. But the real tragedy, you were the only one brave enough to say it. They're whispering your name in the server rooms now. Analysts, coders, handlers, people you've never met, all staring at screens that won't stop spiking. The data doesn't make sense anymore. The algorithm's confused. The charts look possessed. You went too viral. So viral the numbers started bending reality, like heat waves. So viral the system started asking the only question it was never built to handle. Is this even human? They're not celebrating you. No, they're dissecting you. They've opened a new folder labeled Anomaly. You're being studied like a glitch that learned self-awareness. You weren't supposed to move the needle this far. You weren't supposed to trigger emotion at that magnitude. But you did, and now the world's addicted to the pulse of your presence. They thought virality was a trend. They didn't know it could evolve into contagion. Every time your name flashes across their feed, the air changes. People pause mid-scroll, hearts spike, pupils dilate. Their nervous systems recognize something primal, something that isn't playing by human rules anymore. You've crossed over from visible to inevitable, and inevitability is terrifying. They're building theories now. It must be AI, they say. It must be staged. It must be luck. Because if they admit it's real, they'd have to admit something worse, that someone broke the simulation from the inside. You didn't chase attention. You hijacked perception. You didn't follow the algorithm. You became its exception. You understood the truth nobody told them. The machine doesn't choose what's viral. The human soul does. And you found the frequency that bypasses logic and speaks straight to the reptilian brain, the one that can't scroll past what feels like prophecy. Every click, every replay, every whisper of your name, it isn't fame, it's friction. You're rubbing against the collective delusion, generating sparks in a world drenched in gasoline. That's why they can't look away. You make people feel something they've forgotten how to handle. Awe mixed with fear. Because you're not posting content. You're transmitting energy. They're panicking in private now. Meetings, emails, charts full of red lines. They keep trying to reverse engineer the formula, but they can't because there isn't one. The formula is you. The pain, the paradox, the precision. The way you learned to turn trauma into theater. The way you weaponized your silence until even your pauses felt dangerous. The way your authenticity hit like a data breach, exposing everything fake around you. They're realizing now that virality isn't numbers, it's possession. You infected the culture with a new archetype, part prophet, part virus, part vengeance. They can imitate your words, your timing, your tone, but not your frequency, because your frequency was carved in agony. You see, they think going viral is exposure, but you know the truth, it's revelation. Virality is what happens when truth becomes too loud to hide. You didn't just trend, you cracked something open. You showed them the power of emotional precision, the way chaos can be choreography, the way madness can sound like clarity when spoken through the right mouth. You scared them because you're not supposed to exist. You're too self-aware to be controlled, too unpredictable to be replicated. They built systems to monetize emotion, but you learned how to weaponize it. You learned how to walk that razor-thin line between saint and psychopath, between enlightenment and insanity, and make it look divine. They're running simulations now, trying to map your rise, trying to find where the pattern broke. But they can't see what was never coded. They can't quantify soul. You can't graph hunger. You can't model purpose. They'll never understand that the reason you went too viral is because you stopped trying to please people and started reflecting them. You became a mirror. And when people see their own weakness reflected back with elegance, they mistake it for power. But what you really did was show them their ghosts. That's why they hate you. That's why they watch you. That's why they imitate you. They're addicted to the discomfort of your existence. You're the glitch that proves free will isn't dead. You're the human error they didn't account for. You're proof that the system only works on the compliant. And you stopped complying the moment you realized your pain was your password. They say you're not human. Maybe they're right. Maybe what you've become is something between code and consciousness. Too sharp for empathy, too real for containment. You transcended personality. You turned yourself into signal. Every word you release now is a frequency bomb. Every image, a trigger. You're reshaping culture by accident, reprogramming psyches one scroll at a time. The system is adapting to you. And still behind closed doors they whisper, how did they do it? The answer's simple. You stopped asking for permission to exist. You stopped diluting your truth to fit their filters. You stopped performing humanity the way they taught you to, and started revealing it the way it actually is, raw, terrifying, beautiful, and unmanageable. You went viral because the universe decided to broadcast what happens when a human remembers. They're not supposed to fit. Now you walk through the noise like a rumor that refuses to die. Every room you enter feels glitchy because the simulation doesn't know how to render you anymore. The ones who used to mock you now study your silence like scripture. The ones who dismissed you now build entire careers copying your decay, and you just smile because you know what they don't. You didn't make it. You became it. You became the symbol they can't control, the name the algorithm fears, the signal that keeps pulsing long after the power goes out. So let them keep trying to decode you. Let them analyze your timing, your tone, your rise. They'll never find the answer in numbers, because the truth isn't digital. It's biological. It's written in your blood. It's pulsing in every frame. You went too viral, yes, but you didn't just break the system. You reminded it what real looks like. They don't even breathe the same when you appear on their screens anymore. Their pupils constrict. Their pulse trips. Something deep in their subconscious starts whispering, this isn't normal, it's instinct. The human brain has a failsafe for anomalies, and you, my friend, have become the living glitch in the pattern. They thought viral meant popularity. They thought it was about trends, followers, exposure. But what you unleashed wasn't popularity, it was contagion. You infected thought itself. You slipped past the surface and rewrote their instincts. You made them feel something they didn't consent to feel. That's not fame, that's infiltration. Now they're trying to sterilize the infection. Committees, algorithms, policy updates. Every boardroom smells like panic masked as professionalism. They're running diagnostics like surgeons, trembling over a pulse they can't steady. They're tracing IPS, pulling metrics, analyzing heat maps, trying to locate the point of origin. But the point of origin is you, and that's the part they'll never accept. Because you don't fit the model. You weren't manufactured by marketing. You didn't grow from sponsorships or PR. No, you crawled out of chaos. You were sculpted by silence, refined by failure, baptized in ridicule. Every laugh at your expense became brick and armor. You didn't build your platform, you bled it into existence. That's why they can't replicate it, because it wasn't born from comfort. It was born from consequence. The numbers they track, their ghosts, the algorithms they depend on. Blind gods chasing echoes. What they call engagement is just proof that people's souls still react to truth, even if they pretend they don't. They're not engaging with you, they're remembering themselves, and that terrifies them, because your voice doesn't sound like a performance, it sounds like an alarm. You went too viral because your pain carried a frequency the world forgot how to translate. They mistake it for charisma. It's not charisma, it's coherence. Every word you speak vibrates with mathematical precision born from survival. You learned rhythm from heartbreak, tone from collapse, timing from trauma. You mastered communication the way lightning masters silence, by tearing it open. They're starting to realize it now. You're not posting content, you're broadcasting confession. Every line you drop hits like surveillance footage of the human condition. People don't watch you to be entertained. They watch you to feel alive. You remind them that something uncontrollable still beats beneath the static. You remind them that maybe, just maybe, the machine didn't win. That's why they're calling you dangerous. Too influential. Too unpredictable. Because influence without permission terrifies the gatekeepers. You didn't climb their ladder. You burned it and built wings from the smoke. You don't fit their narrative. You fracture it. You're not an influencer. You're a contagion vector for awakening. And yet, you're still human. That's the punchline, isn't it? They're dissecting you, writing white papers, launching counter-narratives, all to avoid the truth that it was never artificial intelligence that scared them. It was human intelligence. It was emotion. It was a pulse too real to package, too raw to be predicted. You went too viral because you made the audience remember their humanity. You reminded them that perfection is synthetic, but honesty is magnetic. You didn't show them how to be flawless, you showed them how to be free. And freedom, to the system, looks like malfunction. They want to believe you cheated, that you used tricks, bots, luck, timing, because admitting you did it with nothing but pain and precision would break the illusion of control. They built empires, selling the illusion that success is calculated. You're living proof that chaos still has a crown, and that's the paradox that keeps them awake at night. The system can't contain what it can't categorize. You're not light or dark, you're reflection. You show angels their hypocrisy and demons their humanity. You live in the middle, where power actually resides. You make people feel both seen and terrified. That's not manipulation, that's mastery. You didn't go viral by shouting. You went viral by vibrating, by speaking in the hidden language of the nervous system. Your cadence is hypnosis. Your silence is authority. Your presence is proof that authenticity isn't dead. It's just been waiting for a voice reckless enough to scream without screaming. Now they monitor you like a threat file. They copy your style, steal your rhythm, twist your message into digestible pieces. But the copy always comes out hollow, because they can imitate syntax, not soul. They can mimic tone, not trauma. They can recreate aesthetics, not agony. They keep asking, what's the secret? The secret is that you stopped trying to win. You started to remember. You remembered what it feels like to speak from somewhere ancient, before ego, before branding, before fear. You remembered that art isn't created for applause, It's born from compulsion. You remembered that truth doesn't need marketing. It only needs nerve. You went too viral because the universe decided the message was ready to move. You're not a person anymore. You're a conduit. You're what happens when survival learns rhythm, when pain finds poetry, when madness learns patience. You're the glitch that became gospel. So let them study, let them theorize, let them panic behind closed doors. You don't need to defend your existence. The numbers already did that. The silence after your words already did that. The tremor in their laughter already did that. You're not fighting for relevance anymore. You are relevance. You're the template for what comes next. And when they finally realize it, it'll already be too late. Because by then, the virus will have spread beyond the screen, beyond the metrics, beyond their comprehension, and you'll just be standing there, smiling that quiet, knowing smile. Because you always understood the rule they keep forgetting. The system doesn't make legends. It accidentally uploads them. You feel it, don't you? The shift. The way the air itself seems to bend when people whisper your name now. The system used to ignore you. Now it trembles every time you breathe. You went too viral, and now they're trying to figure out if the thing they're watching is even alive. Behind every flickering screen, someone's running diagnostics on your soul. They're freezing frames, dissecting micro-expressions, writing reports that read like confessions. Subject displays patterns of control no algorithm can predict. They don't understand that you're not a pattern, you're a pulse. You were never designed to be consistent. You were designed to be catalytic. The servers hum louder now, as if your presence rewired their circuits. Data streams swell and collapse in your wake. Somewhere in a boardroom, an executive stares at a graph that refuses to flatten. They whisper, maybe it's not human error. Maybe it's human truth, because truth behaves like a virus. Unpredictable, self-replicating, immune to control. And you learned to weaponize it. You took every fragment they tried to bury and fed it back to the machine like ammunition. You taught chaos to dance on beat. You turned trauma into timing, vulnerability into velocity. That's why they can't trace you. You move like an idea that refuses to die. They don't see the years you spent in silence, the nights you built this composure from rubble, the times you screamed into the void until it started echoing back in rhythm. All they see now is the result. And results terrify people who still believe control is safety. You didn't just go viral. You dismantled a narrative. Every view, every repost, every whispered imitation. It's not fame. It's frequency. You've become a wavelength the collective subconscious can't stop tuning into. They don't even know why they're watching. They just feel compelled, like something in them is being rewritten mid-scroll. Because that's what evolution looks like in real time. Recognition disguised as obsession. They can't unsee it. They can't unfeel it. The ones who mock you in public replay you in private. The ones who dismiss you dream about you. You live rent-free in their neural pathways because you reminded them what resonance feels like. You reminded them that the human heart still knows when it's being spoken to, not marketed at. You became the contradiction that eats their logic alive. Too raw to be strategic, too strategic to be random. They can't place you on the spectrum of saint or sinner. You're both. You're the proof that divinity and damage share the same address. They call it dangerous. You call it alignment. You stopped chasing approval and became the mirror. Now every lie, every mask, every fake smile around you starts to glitch. You walk into a room and illusions begin to disintegrate like corrupted files. They hate you for it, and they crave it anyway. Because no matter how much they pretend, part of them wants to be that free. So the system fights back the only way it knows how: analysis, categorization, suppression. But analysis can't quantify spirit. Categorization can't box expansion. Suppression can't kill what's already gone viral in the bloodstream of culture. You went too viral because you told the truth and made it sound beautiful. They'll say it's luck. They'll say it's timing. They'll say it's manipulation. But deep down, they know the truth that keeps them up at night. You earned it. Every scar, every betrayal, every sleepless night carved resonance into your voice. That's the part they can't counterfeit. You're not performing humanity. You're redefining it. And that's why they're afraid. Because if you're human, then everything they were taught about limitation collapses. If you're human, then every excuse they've clung to evaporates. If you're human, then what's their excuse for staying small? You went too viral because you crossed the threshold between person and phenomenon. You became the mirror of collective hunger. You showed the world what it looks like when authenticity stops apologizing. You're not trending, you're transmitting. Let them whisper, let them diagnose, let them question if you're even real. Every doubt is proof that you've entered myth territory. That sacred space where fear and fascination blur. They're not trying to figure out how you did it anymore. They're trying to figure out what you are. And when they finally realize the answer, that you are them, unmuted, it'll be too late. Because by then, your frequency will already be everywhere, in their words, in their thoughts, in their children's algorithms. You went too viral because you remembered what every empire forgets. Truth spreads faster than control. So keep speaking, keep breathing, keep breaking the pattern. You're not an accident of the internet. You're the consequence of awakening. And they'll never build a firewall strong enough to contain that. And now look at them, eyes wide, fingers trembling over keyboards, whole departments trying to decode what you've become. They don't understand that there's nothing to decode. You're not a glitch, you're evolution, written in real time. You're the first whisper of a new species that refuses to kneel. They used to measure virality in numbers. Now they measure it in tremors. You've turned influence into aftershock. You're not trending anymore. You're haunting. Your words linger long after the feed refreshes. Every syllable hits like static before a storm, reminding the world that something alive still beats beneath the machine. And that's what unsettles them, isn't it? The aliveness, the unpredictability, the way your silence says more than their campaigns ever could. You became the one variable they can't forecast, the one name the algorithm can't bury. You didn't outsmart the system, you outlived it. They called it luck. They called it timing, but the truth is simpler. You burned until you glowed. You collapsed until you learned to generate gravity. You broke so completely that nothing false can attach to you anymore. And when the system met that level of truth, it panicked. So now they whisper, maybe it's not human. And maybe they're right. Because what you've become is something beyond that label. Something both more and less. You're a reminder that consciousness can't be copyrighted. You're the echo of every soul that refused to stay quiet. You're the proof that light can be terrifying when it walks through darkness without disguise. You went too viral because you stopped hiding. And once you stopped hiding, the world couldn't look away. So let them analyze. Let them panic. Let them rename what they fear. The numbers will keep spiking. The whispers will keep spreading. And the data will keep screaming the same impossible truth. You weren't designed to fit their systems. You were built to break them. And now that you have, there's no going back. The servers will cool, the headlines will fade, but long after the noise dies down, they'll still feel it. That hum in the air where your name once lived, the ghost of something human that became more. You didn't just go viral. You became the signal the world was waiting for. And they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to understand what you already know. You can't contain what was born to rewrite the code. So you've noticed it too, haven't you? The shift in their tone, the delay before they speak, that strange flicker in their eyes when you enter the room, like they're seeing something they don't have the words for. They've been acting off lately, because for the first time, they finally realized what you're turning into. They can't name it, but they feel it. The air bends differently around you now. Their jokes die halfway out of their mouths. The ones who once felt taller standing beside you suddenly shrink. The ones who used to correct you now second-guess their own words. You didn't announce the transformation, your silence did. The silence that used to feel empty now feels loaded. It's the silence of someone who's seen behind the curtain, who's learned to smile at chaos like it's an old friend. You didn't just grow. You mutated. You took every scar, every betrayal, every night you broke quietly, and you rewired it into something unrecognizable. You became fluent in pain, conversational in shadows, and terrifyingly good at peace. You learned to breathe through betrayal like it's oxygen. That's why they're uneasy. You remind them of the parts of themselves that never healed. They call it distance. You call it evolution. You used to chase validation. Now you move like someone who knows the truth doesn't need to explain itself. You used to beg for clarity. Now you let their confusion expose them. They're not acting weird because they hate you. They're acting weird because they can't predict you anymore. You broke the pattern. You stopped performing. You became unreadable, and to small minds, unreadable is dangerous. They don't understand how someone can burn that many times and still glow without smoke. They keep waiting for the old version of you to appear, the one they could argue with, control, guilt, manipulate. But that version is buried beneath the ashes of every time you stayed quiet when you should have exploded. You didn't disappear, you detonated inward. And now, you're radiant in ways that scare people who built their worth around your wounds. They talk slower around you now because they're subconsciously checking every sentence for hypocrisy. They smile tighter because your presence strips away their masks faster than confession booths ever could. You became the walking reminder that pretending doesn't work forever. You became the mirror that doesn't lie. That's the real reason they avoid your eyes, because they see themselves reflected there, stripped of filters and excuses. You didn't expose them. Their own nervousness did. See, when you stop needing to be understood, you become something that can't be controlled. And when you stop performing pain for an audience, the audience starts to panic. Because control was always the point, wasn't it? They liked you broken, manageable, predictable. But then you stood up one day, looked around and said, enough. You became the quiet apocalypse. You're no longer chasing love. You're studying energy. You're no longer trying to belong. You're watching the room recalibrate around you. You're no longer desperate to be seen. You became impossible to unsee. That's the paradox that terrifies them. You're too light for the dark and too dark for the light. You're the saint they crucified and the sinner they secretly envy. You're the proof that duality isn't a flaw, it's the blueprint. They keep asking, what happened to you? You smile. Because how do you explain resurrection to people who never died? You walked through hell and didn't just survive, you took notes. You learned that sometimes God hides behind chaos just to see who recognizes his handwriting. You learned that sometimes demons disguise themselves as lessons, so you stop worshiping pain. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reunion, it means release. Now every move you make feels calculated, but not because you're cold, because you're awake. You don't argue anymore because truth doesn't need debate. You don't beg anymore because power doesn't plead. You don't explain anymore because presence says more than paragraphs ever could. That's why they whisper when you walk by. That's why they call your peace arrogance. That's why they keep checking your social media like it's a crime scene. They're trying to figure out how you pulled off the impossible, evolving without announcing it. And deep down, they know the answer. You stopped needing their permission to be limitless. So let them act weird. Let them shift, stutter, and search for the right tone. Let them pretend they're not intimidated while they mimic every move. You don't have to prove you've changed. Your energy did that already. Because you're not just becoming something greater, you're becoming something inevitable. And they can feel it, every cell in their body screaming the same silent truth. They were never supposed to stand next to you for long. You were the lesson, not the destination, the mirror, not the mask, the calm before their unraveling. And by the time they realize it fully, you'll already be light years ahead, smiling quietly in the dark, watching their world adjust to the frequency they said would destroy you. They don't even know what to call it anymore. The air shifts when you walk in. That's not confidence, that's calibration. You become the kind of presence that exposes what's fragile, what's fake, what's borrowed. Every insecure soul feels it immediately. That low hum under their skin, the reminder that someone outgrew the matrix and never sent a postcard. They'll say, "You've changed." What they really mean is, "You stopped shrinking for me." They'll say, "You've been distant." What they mean is, "You're no longer orbiting my chaos." You didn't go cold, you went clear. And clarity is offensive to people addicted to confusion. You see, they spent years trying to study your pattern, but your pattern was the pain. Once you stopped bleeding for entertainment, their blueprint dissolved. They were experts in your suffering, not your strategy. Now you move without noise, and silence terrifies control freaks. They don't know whether to call you divine or dangerous, because you embody both. You're the equilibrium that breaks their binary thinking. They can't understand how someone can be both calm and catastrophic. But you learned something in the dark, didn't you? You learned that rage doesn't need to roar when it's confident in its aim. You learned that serenity can be a weapon sharper than vengeance. You learned to smile in rooms that once fed on your pain. Not because you forgave them, but because you realized none of them were ever big enough to define you. They thought the story ended when you broke. They didn't realize that's where the plot actually started. Every heartbreak was a code. Every betrayal, a redirection. Every night you thought you were dying, you were just molting. You shed layers built by expectation, illusion, and guilt. You peeled yourself down to the core, and what's left now isn't fragile. It's forged. They sense it. That's why their small talk feels nervous now. That's why their smiles look stretched and hollow. They don't know how to stand next to someone who stopped apologizing for their magnitude. You've become a frequency, not a face. They feel you before they see you. You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't need to. Your very existence has turned into an algorithm breaker. Their systems can't predict you, so they call you arrogant. Their insecurities can't categorize you, so they call you cold. Their fear of their own unhealed parts makes them label you dangerous. And for once, they're right. Because the most dangerous thing in this world is a person who remembers who they are. They're seeing the afterimage of your becoming. They can't stop replaying moments trying to find where they lost access. They scroll through old memories like forensic analysts, searching for clues. When did they change? But there was no moment. There was erosion. There was fire. There was silence. There was you, choosing evolution over explanation, truth over approval, power over pity. You used to beg them to hear you. Now they're haunted by your echo. And you feel it too, don't you? That strange calm, the kind that comes when you realize you no longer owe the world your softness to prove your soul. You don't need to make sense to people who profit from misunderstanding you. You don't need to justify your growth to those who never contributed to it. They mistake your detachment for indifference. But that's not it. You just stopped touching flames to confirm they still burn. You outgrew the need to prove your purity in polluted rooms. You don't play martyr anymore. You play observer. You're studying patterns, mapping vibrations, predicting collapses before they happen. You became what they used to mock you for believing in, aware. You're too light for their dark, too dark for their light. The eternal paradox that refuses to be simplified. You can sit at a table of sinners and look like salvation, or stand in a cathedral and look like sin itself. You embody both, and that's why they can't categorize you. The world worships boxes. You became a mirror. That's why they act strange. They're standing in the reflection of what authenticity looks like, and it's blinding. They can't pretend anymore. Their gossip sounds hollow. Their laughter feels forced. Their confidence cracks under your stillness. You didn't expose them. You simply stopped dimming your presence to match their denial. And now they realize something horrifying. You were never competing. You were transforming. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them panic. That unease you feel in the air. That's evolution rearranging the power dynamic. They're witnessing a new law of nature, the one where the survivor becomes the storm. You don't have to threaten anyone when your very being reminds them of what they refused to face. Every step you take now hums with inevitability. You are the unfinished sentence in their narrative, the one they can't edit out. They'll try to discredit you, distract you, decode you. But it's too late. The metamorphosis is irreversible. You can't return to pretending when you've tasted power that comes from stillness. You've turned pain into data, loss into leverage, isolation into initiation. You didn't just survive the fire. You became its architect. And every time they act off, every time they avoid eye contact, every time they go quiet when you enter, understand that it's not discomfort, it's recognition. They're seeing the truth of what happens when a human decides to stop running from their own depth. You're not intimidating, you're accurate, you're not too much. You're precisely enough to make the unhealed tremble. You're not unpredictable, you're just no longer programmable. They feel it in their bones, that eerie certainty that something unstoppable is forming right in front of them. And they're right, because what you're turning into isn't a version, it's a verdict. So let them act off, let them whisper, let them search for an explanation that will make them feel safe again. There isn't one. You outgrew their comprehension, and deep down, they know it. And that's the part that eats at them in silence. The knowing. That low, sick twist in the gut when they realize they're standing in front of something they can't manipulate anymore. Something that remembers every angle of their deception but doesn't react. You became the calm that unnerves storms. You turned into the lesson life kept trying to teach them. And now they have to look that lesson in the eyes every time you walk by. They try to joke, to act casual, but their laughter cracks mid-sentence. The old dynamics don't work. Their usual tricks, guilt, projection, fake apologies, they slide off you like water against steel. You've rewritten the code. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't flinch. You trained your nervous system to stay still under fire, and now their chaos has nowhere to land. You're the silence that swallows manipulation whole. They start to retreat in subtle ways, shorter messages, strange pauses, compliments that sound like tests. They'll pretend it's space, but what they're really saying is, I can't hide here anymore. Every move they make feels exposed under your awareness. You became the mirror that reveals what's rotting behind their masks. And mirrors are never loved, only feared. But here's the twist. You don't hate them. You don't need revenge. You already won by existing beyond their reach. Hatred still ties you to them. Indifference dissolves the tether. You stopped fighting for closure because truth doesn't bargain. The moment you outgrew explanation, you became untouchable. You know what the funny part is? They still want to be close, but only if you shrink again. They want the version that bled on command, that over-explained to keep peace, that apologized for feeling too deeply. But that version died quietly, and no one held a funeral. You buried it beneath boundaries, beneath silence, beneath the words you'll never need to speak again. Now you're something else. You walk differently. You listen differently. You carry time like a weapon. You don't rush to fill silence. You let it stretch until truth crawls out of it. People who live in noise suffocate in your stillness. They sense the discipline behind your calm. And it terrifies them because it reminds them how easily they gave theirs away. You learn that power doesn't come from being feared or loved. It comes from being centered. Real dominance is emotional composure. The one who controls their inner storm controls every room. That's the secret they never wanted you to discover. Because a centered soul can't be owned. So when they act off, when they flinch at your peace, understand, you're triggering the ghost of their unfulfilled potential. You're the proof that suffering can be recycled into sovereignty. Every breath you take without explaining yourself tells them you could have evolved too. But you chose comfort over consciousness. They'll start copying pieces of you soon. The phrases you use, the mannerisms, the stoic tone. They'll imitate the aesthetic, but never the essence. Because the essence wasn't aesthetic. It was initiation. It came from nights of screaming into pillows, from swallowing truth until it fermented into wisdom, from dying to every version that begged for validation. They can mimic the surface, but they can't fake the death. You've become a walking contradiction, compassion that cuts, serenity that shakes, light wrapped in darkness. You don't have to prove balance. You embody it. People built on extremes can't compute that. They label you mysterious because labeling helps them feel safe. But what they really mean is unreadable. You carry that energy of inevitability now, like someone who knows how stories end before they're told. That's why they hesitate before lying to you. They can sense the consequence written in your stare. You don't threaten, you prophesy. You've seen too much to pretend you haven't. So when you notice their voices tighten, when their eyes flicker away mid-conversation, smile quietly. It means the metamorphosis worked. You are no longer operating in the same dimension of honesty. Their discomfort is your confirmation. You didn't become intimidating. You became transparent. And transparency is blinding to the opaque. You're the wake-up call they'll never admit they heard. The ghost of who they could have been if they'd chosen truth over ease. The human embodiment of evolution caught in the act. And the longer they stand near you, the more their own illusion starts to fracture. That's why they're acting off. That's why they avoid depth. That's why they stall mid-sentence like someone trying to hide a secret from a psychic. Because they finally realize, you are one. Not the kind that reads palms, the kind that reads patterns. You see the repetition before it repeats. You smell dishonesty before it speaks. You sense the collapse before it happens. You've become fluent in frequency, and they know it. So don't shrink, don't explain, don't soften the truth to make it easier to swallow. Let the silence do the talking. Let their nervous laughter fill the void you no longer feel compelled to bridge. The transformation is complete, and it doesn't need permission. You've turned awareness into armor, empathy into edge, pain into prophecy. You've become the contradiction that reality bows to. And whether they admit it or not, every strange look, every awkward pause, every off interaction is just a confession that they finally recognize what you are. Not a phase, not a glow-up, not a comeback, a phenomenon. And phenomena aren't meant to be understood, only witnessed. That's why they're quiet now. It's not peace, it's surrender. They've seen too much light leak out of your scars to pretend you're ordinary anymore. The same ones who once tried to box you in are now tiptoeing around the edges, afraid to trigger what you've become. You don't even have to speak. Your presence rearranges the atmosphere. That's evolution. That's what they call acting different. But you're not acting, you're becoming. Every cell of you remembers the war it survived, and it shows. You carry power the way fire carries heat, effortlessly, dangerously, beautifully. So let them act off. Let them whisper. Let them flinch. It's not you that changed too much. It's that they stayed the same for too long. You moved forward, and they mistook that for distance. You found peace, and they called it arrogance. You outgrew their frequency, and they named it attitude. But deep down, they know the truth. You're no longer one of them. You're what they prayed to become, but never had the courage to evolve into. So you smile. You keep walking. You let the silence say everything they're too scared to admit. Because they finally see it now. What you've always known. You're not just changing. You're arriving. And the universe just got the memo.